how's it going, everybody? My name is Magnum Martell, and welcome back to Story Time. Now, last month, I told a story about an incident that happened when I was in high school, where the school blamed me for pulling the fire alarm, even though I wasn't even at school that day. And if you haven't seen the video, you should definitely go check it out. You can find it on the Storytime playlist, or there's a link down in the description below of that one. But in that story, I briefly mentioned another time when I was in elementary school where I also got blamed for pulling the fire alarm when I didn't do it. And just like in that instance, in this one in particular, it was absolutely beyond reputable doubt that I didn't do it. So, let's get right into it. Now, before we begin, I would like to draw back to the end of that previous video where I said that I know what it's like to be blamed for something and punished only to have your family not believe you, you know? And sure, today it's, oh, they're getting blamed for pulling the fire alarm and they have to serve detention, big deal. Tomorrow it could be they're being accused of drowning a kid in a toilet, and they might be going to jail if you don't defend them. And they won't expect you to, because you didn't defend them for something small. Why would you defend them for something big? So, just take that advice that old Magnum here can offer you, is trust your kids. You know? Always make sure you understand what really happened. If your kid can prove that they didn't do it, then, you know what? You should stick up for them. If they can't, well, I mean, you should at least hear them out. You should at least give them the opportunity to defend themselves instead of saying that they didn't do anything, or just accepting that they must have done it. I know I'm getting a little emotional here, and I know I'm getting a little rambly, but take it from a man who has lived it. Take it from a man who every day thinks he can't trust his own family to stick up for him when he needs. It's not an easy way to live. It's not. It's not easy knowing that if you're blamed for something, you are on your own. And more than likely, you're going to have to take the fall because no one wants to stick up for you. That is a hell that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Well, I ended up having a long disagreement with somebody about it, who basically said that I'm a liar, because apparently that's not true. Apparently I must have deserved it, and they proceeded to try and convince me that just because a kid has been in trouble for something in the past, they should automatically be punished harsher for everything that they do. And, you know, I have to say, I disagree with that. But it would take too long to show the entire disagreement on screen, so I will just leave a link down in the description below to the tweet itself for you to go straight there. Please don't interact with, please don't harass or argue with this person on my behalf. Just come to your own conclusions and leave it at that, which, by the way, you should follow me on Twitter if you don't already. But I do highly suggest you at least give it a read, but still keep your opinions to yourself, because I will not be held responsible if you interact with this person and argue with them and get in trouble. You know, I know what it's like to be told you did something when you didn't do it and have nobody believe you. To have evidence that you didn't do it and have nobody believe you. 2 instances in my life, I've essentially been punished for the same thing, and in both instances, this one I'm going to tell you today, there was evidence that I didn't do it. There was no evidence that I did do it. It's ridiculous. So the second time I got in trouble for pulling the fire alarm when I wasn't there was many, many years later. This instance happened many, many years before. This was actually the first instance of me ever getting in trouble for something that I blatantly didn't do. And I actually have a diagram I drew up for you here. So let me set the scene for you here and give you an idea of the layout. I want you to imagine that you have entered a school building. To your immediate left is the front office, the principal's office and all that stuff. To your immediate right, there is a short hallway with a right turn that leads to another part of the building. Now, I want you to keep in mind that where I went to school, my elementary school and my high school were connected. It was all one big building. Just one big building. They were just separated by section, more or less, basically. Essentially, a different hallway of classrooms was for a different grade, with the exception of the high school where it was all mixed in. But in the elementary, like, the first graders were on the first floor, the second graders were on the bottom floor, which was sort of underground. The sixth graders were also down there, but they were in a different section, further down the hall. Very weird layout, actually, now that I think back to it. But anyway, directly in front of you, there is a long, and I mean long, hallway. Okay? At the end of that hallway, there is a set of double doors with pane glass as, basically a window, with it on both around the doors and on the door itself. So, like a window around the door kind of thing. But to the immediate left of that door, there is a staircase that goes down. And at the top of that staircase, there's a fire alarm. You can refer to the diagram here I have up on your screen. Please keep it in mind. It is important for the purpose of this story. Now, just past those double doors, there is a T shape. This hallway takes the shape of a capital T. So just past those double doors, it is the left and right turns. Slightly to your left, if you look up, just outside of the view of the door, just above the door, is a camera. It is a security camera. Now, it's not one of the newer cameras we have today. My younger viewers probably might not know this, but you older viewers will definitely recognize them. Remember those elongated L-shaped cameras? I have a picture here up on your screen of the kind of camera I mean. One of those old cameras. Now, on the diagram here, I have drawn what is basically the camera's POV. This is the view of the camera that is signified by the green lines. There is another camera directly behind you, facing toward the front door that you have entered through, but it does not see the staircase or the fire alarm. I want you to keep these two cameras in mind because they are integral to the story. Now I'm going to go ahead and minimize the diagram. It's going to be subjugated to just a small section of the screen so that you can continue to watch the gameplay I have placed in the background at your leisure. Please refer to said diagram if you are at all confused about the layout of the situation. Now, given the point of view of the cameras, and mind you, these cameras only move at a certain angle. They don't have a 360-degree view like modern cameras do. You can see that the fire alarm can't actually be seen. It's weird that I actually fully remember the layout of this hallway. I guess because I spent so many years there. Sometimes my own memory actually fucking baffles me because I can't remember what I had for breakfast last Tuesday, but I can remember when I was 4 years old and I wanted some cake and my mom told me no in vivid detail. I have no idea why. No joke. Right hand up to God. When I brought that about a year ago, my mother and I were talking about that, and I brought it up that I remember her telling me no, I wasn't allowed to have cake. It was actually because it was a bachelorette cake because her friend was getting married, and the cake, well, it looked like a man's upper torso, if you know what I'm saying. So it makes perfect sense why she told me no, but I was 4 years old. I didn't know any better, And she was astonished that I distinctly remember the cake and her friend licking it. Not something you want to see at 4 years old. It sticks with you. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So given the location of the cameras, their point of view, and the fire alarm, you can see by the diagram here that the cameras cannot see the diagram. That is important to this story. So what happened was, I want to say I was like in the 4th or 5th grade. Can't really remember. Maybe it was 3rd grade. I can't remember exactly when it happened, but I do remember that it was elementary school. I was a little kid. I remember that it was a Friday, and the weekend was right around the corner, and I also distinctly remember that whenever the school day ended, what we did was that there was two lines. There was the lines for the kids who were going on the bus, and there was the line for the kids who were getting picked up by their parents. In elementary school, I got picked up by my mother almost every single day, or my grandmother, depending on who was free that afternoon. But anyway, this hallway was jam-packed with kids because it was the entire elementary school. So, of course, it went slow and it went by grade. The youngest kids first, the older kids last. That kind of thing. Being somewhere in the middle, I mean, yeah, everybody was in a hurry to get out of there. It was a Friday. Weekend was coming. We finally got 2 days of freedom from school. That's the greatest thing when you're a kid. You get 2 days off to do whatever the fuck you want. No school. We're packed basically backpack to chest like a can of sardines. It was a tight squeeze, and you're basically walking single file, one step at a time, working your way to the end of the hallway. Well, anyway, this kid, who's a couple people in front of me, I want to say he's 2-3 people in front of me, it was loud because everybody's there talking to their friend who they're standing next to or whoever, so I didn't really hear anything, but I know the kid is talking to someone who's in front of him because they keep looking back at him. I'm a couple people behind him. I want to say there's like 2 people in front of me between us. Well, I see the kid reach up and he yanks down the fire alarm. And, several people saw it. The two people in front of me, his friends saw it. And, of course, the alarm goes. So because of the fire alarm, instinctively, everyone makes a break for the exit. This got the line moving real fucking quick. I remember getting outside to my mom, walking to her car, and us going home. Well, the following Monday, my mom gets me up for school, and I'm getting dressed, and she seems like she's mad about something. And this is my mother. She could be angry about anything at any time. At that point in my life, I've just come to get used to the fact that there's going to be days where she's just going to be angry for no fucking reason whatsoever. Well, as we're going to school, she tells me that I'm in trouble. And of course, I'm like, what did I do? I'm a kid. Like I said in the last story, when someone says that you're in trouble when you're a kid, you immediately start thinking, what did I do? What did they catch me doing? I mean, I threw away my broccoli, but she doesn't know, right? She doesn't know, right? She doesn't know I threw it away without eating it, right? She doesn't know that I gave it to the dog, right? Shit. I think she knows. Well, anyway, we arrive at school, and they buzz us in, and we step inside, as we often do. The other kids are walking to the classroom, and before I can walk off, my mom tells me to come into the office with her. Me, of course, not knowing what's going on, I blindly follow and just don't think anything of it. We sit down, so we're sitting there for a couple of minutes. Class starts, the hallway starts to go quiet, and eventually the principal comes out. The principal was an older woman, librarian-looking lady. I can't remember her name for the life of me. She retired some years after I got out of elementary school, but she was there for, the majority of my school years. When I was in high school, she was still the principal of the elementary school. So she comes out, and she asks us into her office. Well, we go in, and we sit down, and she looks at me, and she asks me, why did you pull the fire alarm last Friday? And, of course, I'm sitting there confused. I'm like, I didn't pull the fire alarm. And they go, well, we have you on camera. We can prove that you did. And this is the point where I ask you, viewer, to refer back to the diagram I drew here for you, very crudely using Microsoft Paint, but it serves its purpose well enough. Tell me, which of those cameras, through their point of view, mind you, these cameras only have one lens that records, and both of them are signified by the green lines, which one sees the fire alarm that was pulled? Neither of them, right? Well, sure enough, this is the first time in my life, out of the two, where I was accused of pulling the fire alarm when I didn't do it, and they had no evidence. So my mom's sitting there looking at me, looking real upset, and the principal's sitting there looking at me, looking real upset, and me, of course, being a little kid, I'm not sure what to do. I'm 7, 8 at this time. I start crying. I didn't do it. Because when you're a kid and you've got two adults looking down on you, looking very angry, and you know you didn't do it, what else are you going to do? Well, my mom gives me the old quit crying, you have nothing to cry about thing that she loved to do whenever I would start crying as a kid. And the principal tells me that I'm going to have to serve a detention. So, of course, I try to explain myself. I try to say that it was a kid in front of me. I don't know who the kid was. I don't know his name, but I saw him do it, and I could probably point him out. Well, they didn't really care. They say that they had camera footage of me doing it. This was my first detention. No joke. This is my first ever detention in my life. I understand if they claim they have evidence, but as a parent, and I want you parents in the audience to understand this and remember this, make them fucking prove it. Make them show you the evidence. Don't just accept that they do just because they say it. That's something my mother never did whenever someone said they had evidence. She would never ask to see it. She would never demand to see it. She would just accept that if they say they have it, they fucking have it. Sure, like all kids, when you're a little kid and you misbehave because you're playing at recess and you don't realize that you did something you weren't supposed to do, sure, there's been incidents like that in my life, but all kids have those. You can't say that they don't. Every kid is playing tag with their friend and accidentally pushes someone over and gets in trouble for it and has to sit in timeout for 10 minutes. Big deal. You're a kid. It happens. But this was the first time that it was more serious than that. It was the first time it was an actual detention for something that I didn't actually do. And I didn't know what to do. I was a little kid. I was scared. All I did was cry and say I didn't do it, and I saw the kid who did, and they, of course, said that they had me on camera. Even though the cameras, to this day, hand to God, I swear to you, could not see me. Even though the cameras couldn't see the fire alarm. Now, had that happened now, or even like it did when I was in high school, I could have made the same argument of, that wasn't me, but I can tell you who it was. I can logically deduce and prove my innocence, but when you're a kid, the only argument you have is, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So they give me detention, and I was forced to serve it. My mom comes at 4 o'clock that afternoon. Elementary detention was much worse than high school detention, because high school detention, we got out of school at 2:32, and detention was over at 3 when the elementary let out. Elementary detention, you don't get out of school till 3 anyway. Then you have to stay for an hour till 4. My school was really weird about the way it handled detention. High school detention is a half hour. It is so much easier, and you're just like, yeah, what the fuck ever, most of the time. So I ended up spending the entire school day upset that I had to serve a detention. I serve my detention, 4 o'clock rolls around, and I leave, and I'm just ready to go home and call it a day. I am so fucking done with that day. I walk outside, and my mom's standing there in the parking lot next to her car, and I get in the car, and of course, that's when she starts yelling. Giving me the whole, you shouldn't have pulled the fire alarm, you deserve this, they had proof. And me being a little kid, I'm just sitting there bawling as she's screaming at me because I don't know what else to do. And it's not like I can argue or defend myself. We get home and she sends me up to my room, and I had to basically sit for the rest of the night and be upset. Last video, when I said, parents of the audience, remember to at least believe your kids. Give them the opportunity to defend themselves. Make whoever's accusing them of whatever actually fucking provide proof. That's what my mother never did. If I was accused of something, I did it. Not that I actually did do it, just in her eyes, I did it. And there was no defense. God forbid I ever get falsely accused of something that I could be sitting in prison for. Because my mother would never defend me. She wouldn't help me. She would ask why I did it, and then tell me that I must have done it, or they wouldn't accuse me of it. And I'm going to tell you something else. Don't be like this fucking cunt. Don't be like this guy here that I had an hour-long argument with. Don't pull the old, well, I think that you didn't do it, but you must have done it, shit with your kids. That shit pisses me off. If I had a fucking nickel for every time I've heard that, I would have more money than fucking Nickelback. Because I've heard that many times. Because that's always the defense. When they know you didn't do it, but they just want to blame somebody, they always go, I think you didn't do it, but you actually did it. You think you did nothing wrong, but you must have done something wrong, or you wouldn't have been in trouble. I hate that argument because it is asinine. It makes no logical sense, and I'm not going to hide his name. Again, don't go harass him on my behalf. I'm just saying, I feel bad for this guy's kids. I do. Because he's going to be like my mother, where they're going to get accused of something, and there's not going to be any proof, and he's going to go, well, then you must have fucking done it. Let alone the crack he made earlier in that thread about sending them to military school. I'll tell you what I think about that, and I might do a full video on it, but all it does is tell your kids that you don't have the time to be a fucking parent. I don't like doing the whole personal insult thing, but this one irritated me enough to earn it. And I can't get behind it. I cannot understand the logic of someone who goes, well, if they're accusing you of it, you must have did it. You think that you didn't do it, but you clearly did it. Bullshit. This is part of why I don't ever want to be a parent, because I'm afraid that I will be like my mother. But if I ever do have children, and someone tries to accuse them of something, I'm going to listen to them first. I'm going to hear them out and hear their defense. I'm going to ask them what they say happened. Because I don't think it's fair to assume guilt without proof. And if there is proof, you need to fucking show it to me. Take it from me, dear viewer, parents, future parents, whoever, guardians, uncles, aunts. Listen to the fucking kid and hear them out. Don't ever stand there and scream in their face and demand to know why they did something. And then when they tell you that they didn't do it, say you must have done it. And continue to demand reasons. Don't sit there and treat them like a fucking criminal. Because all it's going to do is make them hate you. All it's going to do is make them know and believe that they can't trust their parents. They're going to hide things from you. They're going to lie to you. They're not going to tell you what's going on in their life because they're going to be too fucking afraid. Because they don't think that they can trust you. There is no greater hell on this earth than living your life with everyone getting mad at you all the time and saying that you do these things that you didn't do and you can prove you didn't do, and then knowing that you can't trust anyone to be in your corner and back you up. Being on your own like that, when it's everyone else saying you did and just you saying you didn't, it's fucking horrible. Thanks for watching, everybody. My name is Magnum Martel. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Next time, I'm going to try and do a happier story, because I've just done these two that were very upsetting to me. Because I like to get personal with my audience. I do. Just a little. I want you guys to understand my point of view on things. I do these stories because I like doing them. So next time, I'm going to try and do something a little more, I don't know, a little more fun. Something that's not such... something that doesn't make me angry to think about it, I guess. And I'll see you in the next video.